line of questioning will be similar to my colleague from Michigan. And I note that Afghanistan is widely ranked as one of the most corrupt nations in the world, with a score of 16 out of 100, with 0 being bad and highly corrupt. Would you agree with that statement and that observation?
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to get a sense of how much money is being wasted with the fraud and corruption. And appropriated for this year is $5 billion, a similar number in 18. And you talked about billions of dollars being lost to fraud and corruption. Yet we don't have a firm percentage. But it seems like you could probably make a guesstimate, and I guess that's what I'm asking you to do. If you had to guess, based on all the information you have, your best educated guess, are we losing 25% to fraud and corruption, 40%, 50%, more? I mean, for every dollar we put in there, what do you expect is being lost?
And again, I don't mean to dodge the question. It's difficult. Best I can say is we took a look at all of the audits and inspections and investigations we did, which isn't the total, isn't the 132. I was actually looking for the number. I can't find it before me. But when we looked at that number, we then did an assessment how much of that was waste, fraud, or abuse. And I believe we came up with about the figure of, was it 35%? About 30% was we could identify as waste, fraud, or abuse. So that doesn't specifically talk about corruption, but we came up with that number. So we looked at 766 audits, investigations, or inspections we had done, which covered 52 billion of the 132 billion. So we were very conservative. We didn't look at anything we didn't audit. And with that number, we found it up to 15 billion of the 52 billion, and this gets a little complicated, had been lost to waste, fraud, and abuse.
So about 30%.
About 30%. So that's, I would say it's a safe number. Now,
Okay.
some of my auditors may say that doesn't meet GAGAS, which is generally accepted government auditing standards, but I think that's a fair assessment.
And do you have any evidence or opinion as to, of that 30%, what is falling into enemies' hands?
Not out of that audit, but other experts have said publicly, and I think the military, about 30% of the Taliban's money comes from either taxes on businessmen or from theft themselves. But I think it's a pretty safe guess that if you're stealing money from us, you're probably kicking a percentage back to the Taliban, whoever the local terrorist group is. But I can't say for sure. We haven't looked at it.
And in looking at, I think it was touched on, the anti-corruption processes that Afghanistan has attempted to put in place, how would you characterize the success so far?
Very mixed. We are still troubled by that, and every quarterly report we report on it. They did create an anti-corruption justice center where they were supposed to vet the police and the prosecutors. From the beginning, they didn't vet them. By vet them means they polygraphed them. Well, it turned out they polygraphed them, but they never fired them. So what was the use of polygraphing them? They have a real problem issuing warrants and executing arrest warrants and search warrants on the big fish. And we've identified that, and actually I've gotten into a very public spat with the Afghan Attorney General on his inadequacy in enforcing subpoenas or arrest warrants, et cetera. So it's mixed. But I will say it's better than the prior regime. Okay. So you do have a willing partner to some extent. So I don't want to paint it totally black, but you know, this isn't California. Right. This isn't, well, you know where it's just above, North Korea and Somalia.
Well, and I know there's many partners in this process within the Afghan government. I'm sure some do better than others. Finally, can you just maybe share us one or two examples of the significant fraud and corruption that you have seen?
Well, I think that the two biggest examples, I talk about fuel. One of the examples we identified early on was not just stealing it, which is massive, but actually sitting down and controlling the contracts, which would cost the U.S. taxpayer $250 million on one contract. That's one. The other one is ghosts. We are still finding ghosts. And by that I mean not spectral ghosts. I'm talking about we're paying the salaries of policemen who don't exist. Somebody's pocketing their salary. And we still got loopholes. So we're working very closely with CSTICA, my audit team, my investigative team, and CSTICA, which is the military group that pays for all of this, trying to identify current holes in the system. So I would say the ghosts and the fuel are two
Ghost
biggest.
and gas.
Ghosts and gas.
Okay. I yield back. Thank you.